Hi students, welcome to lesson number 17 on National Policy for Women. Now introduction for the lesson. Women have human and legal rights to live with dignity as human beings and citizens of our country. The Indian Constitution's framers acknowledge their rights to equality, personal liberty and fundamental freedoms and included various clauses to support them. Even after 70 years of independence, however, these provisions are not sufficiently enforced. They are, on the contrary, exploited and abused, and their rights are frequently infringed by influential members of society. Women have been mistreated in every community for centuries, and in our male-dominated society, they are considered handmaidens of men. A woman is deprived of her liberty and is frequently regarded as a father's, husband's or son's property. Her spouse does not consider her as a life partner, but rather as a commodity to be used. As a result, she is frequently confronted with numerous crimes and horrors perpetrated by a male counterpart. The Indian government has passed various criminal, civil and labour legislations in the past to protect women from such violence and exploitation and to advance their legal rights. Social legislations are what they are called. Effective enforcement of these social legislations provisions can truly assist women in developing themselves and realizing their treasured objectives and dreams as women and citizens of our beautiful country. However, the majority of women in our country are unaware of the numerous aspects of these laws and hence are unable to claim their rights. What is required is an awakening of women's and men's social consciousness as well as the creation of a movement to empower women so that they can develop themselves and contribute significantly to the nation's growth in collaboration with men. Now, objectives of this lessons are that this lesson will help the students to understand the national policies and legislations meant for women. Now, we will try to discuss the policies meant for women. Policy directions emerged from the Committee on the Status of Women in India 1974, National Policy on Education 1986, National Perspective Plan 1988-2000 and National Policy on Empowerment of Women 2001. And now, we will try to understand what is the status of women in India. The report of the Committee on the Status of Women in India 1974 is a radical document considering the times in which it was formulated. The committee made various recommendations with regard to the socio-cultural aspect. It suggested changes to be brought about in social attitudes and institutions through a planned process and concerted effort. There was a need to mobilize public opinion and create awareness on issues like dowry, polygamy, conspicuous expenditure on weddings, child marriages and lead a campaign on legal rights of women. For this, the government would need to collaborate with the voluntary organizations working on women's issues. On women and law, the committee recommended such marriage laws that provide equal footing to women. This was to be done by eradicating polygamy in Muslim law, enforcing provision against bigamy under Hindu Marriage Act, restraint of child marriage which is still prevalent in rural areas, and to provide the right to repudiate marriage on attaining majority to be made available to minor girls from all communities whether marriage was consummated or not. It states the importance of registering marriages, establishment of family courts to resolve matrimonial matters in a conciliator manner, adopting a uniform civil code according to Article 44, valuing secularism, science and modernization, since the continuity of personal laws causes inequality between women and men, among others. In the economic sphere, the committee said that women are to be involved in national development. This requires extension of Maternity Benefits Act 1961 to other arenas of the economy, provision of creches for working women, equalization of wages and its incorporation in the Minimum Wages Act, training programs for women in industries to avoid their retrenchment, part-time employment for them, National Employment Service to assist women by providing them requisite information, provision of special leave without pay up to 5 years to enable women to take care of the family, and setting up a women's wing in trade unions to highlight women's problems. The committee emphasized equality of educational opportunities. It recommended that co-education should be followed, that is, common curricula should be followed for both girls and boys. It recommended 3 years of preschool education for all children through balwadis in rural areas and urban slums. Universalization of elementary education for children in the age group of 6 to 14 years. Introduction of sex education middle school onwards. Free secondary education for girls. Gender equality to be woven in the curriculum along with others. The gender gap in literacy can be reduced by involving the community in creating awareness among women. In order to ensure women's participation in the political system of the country, the committee suggests reservation of seats in municipalities for women as an interim measure. Political parties to adopt a definite policy with regard to the percentage of women they would sponsor for elections to parliament and state assemblies, and inclusion of women in all important commissions formed to discuss socio-economic issues. The committee recommends a separate budget for maternity and child health care services, campaign for family planning to also bring about a change in the notion on fertility, where women are blamed for the sex of the child. Changes in the Medical Termination Act of Pregnancy, providing women control over their lives, along with other provisions. It also suggests that in place of focusing on curative services, preventive and promotive health care should receive attention. Now, we will understand the National Policy on Education 1986. This policy emphasizes on the need to equalize educational opportunities by removing disparities that exist in society. Under this particular section, Education for Women's Equality, the policy observes that education will be used as an agent of basic change in the status of women. The national education system will play a positive interventionist role in the empowerment of women, and this will be done through curricula, teacher training and active participation of the education institutions. It also promotes women's studies and also encourages educational institutions to initiate programs for women's development. Women's literacy will be encouraged, and any hurdles in obstructing their access and retention in elementary education will be identified and tackled. Moreover, gender stereotyping in vocational and professional courses will be eliminated, giving way to women's participation in modern occupations. Now, we will try to understand the National Perspective Plan for Women 1988-2000. This plan perceives women in a holistic manner and assesses the effect of development plans and programs on women. It aims at economic development and integration of women into the mainstream economy and equity and social justice for all women. The plan suggests measures to be adopted in the fields of agriculture, employment and training, supportive services, education, health and family welfare, so that women could reach a level comparable to men by 2000. In the agriculture and allied services, women related development dimensions need to be discussed and women should be provided productive resources. The plan states that new avenues of employment have to be made available for women, improving their present working environment, employment and productivity potential, enabling them to become an articulate and conscious workforce, thus assuming the status and recognition of a worker. The supportive services provided to women would help them to focus on work, at the same time reducing the daily drudgery they have to undergo. Issue of fuel, fodder and water are directly of concern to women, so they should be included in the programs designed on this aspect. The plan envisages involving community members in girls' education and making them realize the importance for strengthening women's role in society and for socio-economic development of the nation. The National Literacy Mission should also involve women's organization. Health is an important indicator of well-being for women's development. The plan recommended that the amniocentesis test be banned. There is a need to encourage parents to have female children. Health services should cater to women's health problems. The plan recognizes that women's movement has struggled to get equal legislation. In spite of the constitution and various laws, equality has not been extended to women in society. Still, there is a greater incidence of violence against women in various forms. Thus, a multi-pronged group is required that monitors drafting of legislation, judicial decisions and such matters at center and state level. It is important to generate legal literacy among women so that they are able to exercise their political rights. Media and communication play an important role in changing attitudes towards women, and the support has to be sought in this regard. Voluntary action can also improve the status of women, particularly in rural areas. It can enable women to become self-reliant and act as a catalyst in organizing them for collective action. Such agencies can be involved in the government-run employment and support services for women. Now, we will understand what is Shram Shakti report. A report of the National Commission on Self-Employed Women and Women in the Informal Sector 1988 was set up to study in a comprehensive manner the working and living state of poor women. It includes unprotected labor, those who are self-employed, engaged in wage labor, paid or unpaid, and contract labor. Though women contribute to family and national economy, their work gets no recognition. Thus, women worker should be defined in a broad manner to include work, whether paid or unpaid, which she does within the household or outside as a worker or on her own account. It suggests that a multi-pronged approach that is flexible, integrated and area specific should be adopted by planners. The ongoing exploitation and uneven control of resources cause women to survive in extreme poverty. Lack of knowledge, skills and resources makes them feel powerless. The existing development schemes do not overtly discriminate against women, yet at the same time they do not also empower them. This feeling of powerlessness is the outcome of the subordinate status accorded to women in implementation of the policy, which then makes men chief beneficiaries in any development project. Moreover, certain vested interests keep women subordinated to get cheap and docile labor. In such a situation, the Commission recommends introduction of new packages and programs that assist the poor and vulnerable women. The areas of employment need to be enlarged for women. Working conditions have to be improved. Drudgery could be reduced and they may be provided with social security. The Commission advocates adoption of a holistic and integrated approach. Now, we will understand the National Policy for Empowerment of Women. The National Policy for Empowerment of Women 2001 states that judicial legal system will be sensitized towards women's needs. Old laws will be changed and new ones be made stringent to ensure punishment to offenders in accordance with the offence. Personal laws related to marriage, divorce, maintenance and guardianship will be changed to ensure equality for women. Alongside at the political level, women will be made partners in the decision making and power sharing process. This policy realizes the need to mainstream gender perspectives in the development process. Women can act as catalysts, participants and recipients. For this, women issues and concerns need emphasis in all plans, policies, laws and programs of action. The strengthening of women's role in social, economic spheres and through institutional mechanisms would lead to empowerment. According to the policy, economic empowerment of women is essential for any change in their status. Since women form a major segment of those below the poverty line, hold low intra-household position and face ongoing inequity, policies and poverty eradication programs should cater to their needs. Such measures would help them build requisite capacities. In order to assist them in starting new enterprises, microcredit would be made available to them from finance institutions. Women's viewpoint has to be included in the macroeconomic policies. Their contribution to the formal and informal sector has to be acknowledged and the concept of work in the census record has to be revisited. Studies show that advantages of globalization have been unevenly distributed, leading to economic inequalities, feminization of poverty and growing gender inequality. To address this, policy recommends strategies to be designed to empower women. The policy also recognizes the role of women in agriculture, information technology, electronics, food processing, agro-industry and textiles. It recommends provision of crèches at workplace and educational institutions to enable women to participate fully in the social spheres. It suggests women favorable personal policies. And in social empowerment can also be ensured by focusing on education, health, nutrition, housing and shelter, environment, science and technology, combating violence and harnessing and regulating the mass media. In the arena of education, the policy assures equal access to girl women by removal of discrimination, universalization of elementary education, increase in enrollment and retention of girls, improvement in quality of education, gender sensitive curriculum and education system, and also reduction in gender gap in secondary and higher education, and also to achieve sectoral time targets for vulnerable women belonging to scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and other backward sections and minorities. The policy envisions a holistic health perspective for women with focus on nutrition. It aims to achieve the national demographic goals for infant and maternity mortality rates mentioned in the policy. And now the National Population Policy 2000. Women will also be enabled to exercise their reproductive rights. Registration of births, death and marriage will be made compulsory to strategize and deal with the problems that women face. Moreover, women face malnutrition in infancy, childhood, adolescence and reproductive stages, and also face intra-household discrimination. Toilet facilities and safe drinking water has to be made available in urban slums and rural areas. The policy aims to involve women's perspective in designing policies and programs for conservation and restoration of the environment. Women will also be motivated to take up science and technology in higher education. The policy recognizes the need to pay attention to the women in critical circumstances such as those in destitution, conflict situation, affected by natural calamities, widows, elderly women, etc. Moreover, women facing continuous violence, both physical and mental, at home or in society will be able to approach institutions thus created to eliminate such acts. Mass media will be regulated to depict images that portray women in diverse roles and do not hurt their dignity. The policy realizes the significance of gender budgeting to make the planning process gender conscious. It also discusses the Women's Component Plan and assigns the Department of Women and Child Development being the nodal ministry to monitor and review the progress of the implementation of the component plan from time to time in terms of both quality and quantity in collaboration with the Planning Commission. Now, the political empowerment of women also is essential to enable them to play an effective role in the political system. Universal adult suffrage, according to the Article 326, ensures that all the citizens of India, that is 18 years and above, have the right to vote irrespective of caste, class and gender. The 73rd and 74th Constitution Amendment Act 1993 are inserted in Part 9 and Part 9A of the Constitution. Part 9 relates to panchayats containing Articles 243 to 243O, and Part 9A relates to municipalities containing Articles 243P to 243ZG. Article 243D states that not less than 1/3 of the total number of seats to be filled by direct elections in every panchayat shall be reserved for women. Of the total seats reserved for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe in proportion to their population, 1/3 are to be reserved for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe women. To summarize, in this lesson we have discussed various policies and programs that aim to empower women and children. There are various constitutional safeguards and institutions that guarantee women's equal status. Policy like CSWI, National Policy on Education, National Perspective Plan for Women, Shram Shakti Report and National Policy on Empowerment of Women recognize women's contribution to society and suggest ways to empower them. They consider women as participants in the development process and not mere beneficiaries of welfare programs. In the light of these policies, various programs were also started. These empowered women in developing their potential to lead a dignified life.